Okay, I'm making a video. I know I said I'm not going to do this, but I keep feeling compelled. What happened today? I have been making videos about the world, about current events, about things that happen. I make my little shitty movie reviews and stuff like that. But today, and you know, I was trying not to make any, but I keep trying to stop. But something happens and I feel compelled one way or another to make a video about whatever is going on, or if I feel like I'm watching a movie and I want to do a review. And I keep doing it against my better judgment. I believe, I've said in other videos, that I believe that we're in a constant battle between good and evil, with it inside of ourselves and out in the world. The faucet's dripping if you can hear it. I've been saying that. I speak in code sometimes. I don't want to speak in code, but I also don't want to get in trouble. But let's go ahead and talk about the last 24 hours. Remember, I'm a movie fan. I'm a fan of a lot of people. I've been a fan of sports. But I've always been aware of current events. So let's say I didn't watch soccer. Like, I knew who Pele was when I was a kid because he was in the movie Victory. But also he was everywhere. He was on TV all the time. Even though I never really watched soccer itself. Okay, so even as the 10-year-old, I was very much aware of the world out there. So I've always had my brain a little bit in what's going on. The last 24 hours have been extremely crazy. Okay. I've said before how I keep falling asleep sort of in prime time. Like, I'll fall asleep at 8 o'clock and then I'll wake up, 12:30, 1 o'clock, something like that. I don't know why I'm doing it with my hands. I've been a nervous wreck all day. I've been getting more and more nervous because of my own situation. But I've been a nervous wreck all day, starting with this thing that happened. So yesterday, I fell asleep. Like I said, in prime time, I woke up. I really don't know what time it was. Anyway, I woke up. It could have been like 12:30. I really have no idea. And, went to the bathroom, came back, and I was like, okay, well, I was supposed to be watching YouTube videos. I fell asleep on them. So let me go back and watch them. So I was watching YouTube videos for about an hour or more. And I said, well, let me check Twitter. I go on Twitter, and I get a tweet from KTLA, which I just started following because I said, I want to know about LA news for some reason. I remember they're the ones who do Oscar stuff, so I started following them a week ago. It just seemed like a good idea, since I'm so involved in worrying about the movie business. I'm like, why don't I just... And I think I did follow them a long time ago because of Oscar coverage. So, the top tweet on my timeline was from KTLA, saying Jeremy Renner has been in this plowing accident, and he's in critical but stable condition. I'm like, what? And it said breaking news, right? I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, because it's still, I wasn't out of it in terms of being asleep. It was just in the middle of the night. It was quiet. I was just watching YouTube videos. And then you're like, wait a minute. Now, Jeremy Renner, I was a fan of Jeremy Renner very much before he became an Avenger. I don't know if it was from the Hurt Locker. I feel like it must have been something before, but maybe it was the Hurt Locker. And then I went back and watched some of his other stuff and became a fan. And back when I first made my LJ account, which was about 2008, I guess, I had a solid list of my top 10 actors, and he was on it. And, again, I like people who are triple threats. So if I think somebody's a really good actor, and I like their personality and stuff, then I find out they can sing or something, or, I'm like, okay, this is my kind of person. So I kept waiting for him to be in a musical. He did end up doing some songs. Just like Luke Evans. Luke Evans did end up being in Beauty and the Beast. He's done a second album now. And I'm happy for that. You know what I mean? Because when people are talented, I want their talent to get out there. For them not to be like, Patrick Wilson aggravates me because he's got the best voice, I believe, but he's always doing those damn horror movies. There should be like a musical every week with Patrick Wilson singing. This is what, as a fan, I want, So, I've been a fan of Jeremy's for a long time. I think he's a super talented guy. I kind of got aggravated with the Avengers because I felt like years were going by and he should have been in better stuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with Hawkeye, but in the movies, the show ended up being terrible because it wasn't about Hawkeye. I think somebody just jumped in their garbage pail outside, if you heard that. But yeah, he always seemed cool. Like I said, I knew that before he like really had any money. Like, I don't know if he was a working actor, probably, but he just didn't have a lot of money. He would buy a house that was like not working and sleep in it while he fixed it up to flip it. And he would, like, you know, even if there was no bathroom and running water, he would like go to the gas station down the street or McDonald's or whatever, wash up and stuff like that. So I knew he was like much more of a normal person than the average actor. I think he was even a hairdresser at one point. But I used to know all his business, like I knew everybody's business when, you know, they became a favorite of mine. I always look them up and find out where they're from and all this stuff. And he seemed pretty much like a regular guy. And then he became an Avenger. And you know how that goes. So I see the story and I'm like panicked. Then I see I get a, you know, a Google alert from my Gmail, right? A Gmail alert, I guess you call it. I don't know. And from the Deadline story, because I get Deadline newsletter about this. So I'm thinking it's a brand new story. This just happened, or this just became a breaking story of whenever it happened. And then I'm on YouTube and I'm like, oh, you know, and I said, oh, in a comment section, oh, you guys, you know, you should pray and stuff like that. And I'm sorry to be off topic and everything. And this was a 2 hour old story, and everybody knew about it already. And I felt stupid. So on top of being flustered and worried, because this is somebody I like very much, and like I said, I know people don't understand, or people act like it's stupid to care about famous people, but I always have. You know, just at New Year's Eve, I was so happy to be able, because my TV was cutting in and out. It's not my normal channel that comes in. I was so happy to be able to actually see Duran Duran, and New Edition was there, and, you know, counting down from, you know, Times Square, and right before that on Instagram, Jean-Claude Van Damme was doing an Instagram live where he was walking around in the rain in LA, and he was talking to people, and it reminded me of the time I saw him years ago outside of Letterman and how nice he was and funny, because it was just adorable. So, you know, I like these people. So the story happens, and now I'm like, okay, well, everybody already knew about it. And I'm looking at the story, and it's like critical condition but stable. I'm like, but critical, I'm not okay with that. And it's like some kind of snowplow accident. So I wasn't sure what happened. And I was saying this, like, I'm getting sick of myself because I keep thinking I know things and I don't. Or I keep thinking I'm telling somebody information and I don't have any. And I'm starting to get sick of myself. It's one thing when I know something, but I'm starting to talk, and come to find out I didn't know the information at all. Or I had it backwards, and I'm sitting there talking to people like I know, and I'm like, I wasn't like this before. And it wasn't that I wasn't the kind of person to tell people information. I just had the right information. So I assumed he had like a truck with a plow on it. I do follow him on Instagram. I follow him on Twitter. I don't know why I see certain things and I don't see other things. I don't know how algorithms work. I don't understand. But I would see things here and there. So I've always seen this snowy house, and I know he liked it. I remember one time there was a bunch of snow on, and I was like, ooh, how do you get out of there? Right? But he was happy about it. This was years ago, I think. So I had never seen, I guess there was previous video of him driving this of him driving this gigantic truck thing. Like, I don't know what kind, but it's a huge thing. A huge thing. So I'm reading the story last night, and they're saying they're treating it as a crime scene, and they're saying it ran him over, and it's supposed to have all these safety features. And I'm like, well, that must mean somebody else was driving it. Like, him and his buddy went to go plow, and, you know, something happened, and he got out to check the thing, or, and then, you know, it just went, and, you know, or the buddy hit the wrong thing and it ran him over. They're saying, no, it was just Jeremy. Jeremy was doing this thing. Now that I've seen what this machine looks like, I can't imagine how he gets out of it and then it runs him over. This doesn't look like something where you just have a little emergency brake and you go, ooh. You know what I mean? And if it ran him over, I don't know how there's any Jeremy left. Because everybody's saying, oh, it ran over his leg, he might lose his leg. And then I'm reading the further news stories and it's saying extensive injuries and he's still in critical condition. And I'm like, if it just ran over his leg, that's one big injury. Extensive injuries makes me think he got run over by the whole thing. Then there was just a story saying he's out of surgery for chest trauma. It ran over him. How did it do that? Number one. Number two, when I talk about evil, when I talk about curses, when I talk about stuff like that, it's because I've lived a long time and there's been so many things that happen that don't make sense. Like I said before, this is why I like David Lynch stuff, because in David Lynch stuff, really weird, scary, spooky shit happens. And in my opinion of life and my experience and just knowing enough about other people's lives, really stupid, random shit happens that you say to yourself sometimes, evil must have done that. You know, because how could everything line up in such a perfectly sick way for this stupid thing to happen that should never happen? I was trying to think of this because this is not a car. The only other person I can think of, remember Anton Yelchin? He had some kind of SUV and he parked it, and then I don't know if he went to pick up something or if he dropped his phone. Somehow the car backed up over him. I don't know if he didn't put the emergency brake, if he did put the emergency brake or whatever. But this is not just a normal car. But in the case of that, it's like, why did the car do that? In the case of Anton Yelchin, if something like that happens, I'm like, no. Now, last week, I was talking about Twitch. I've said what I think. There's evil and there's evil. There's evil where really weird shit lines up and it's unexplained. There's other kind of evil where some person who's not particularly evil does a thing that sets off a chain of events that causes evil to occur. There's other people who are just flat out evil, like they'll do blood sacrifices and stuff to gain a position in life. And then there's a more insidious kind of evil that comes along with mandates and things where you force people to do their own downfall. And I'm not gonna conspiracy theory, you know what I'm talking about. There are certain things that people had to put in themselves that are now causing a problem. Okay, so as it stands right now, it seems, I mean, I haven't checked my phone lately because it's been that kind of day. Where is my phone? It seems like, you know, he's in intensive care, which they didn't say intensive care at first, but he's in intensive care. He's had 2 surgeries, it sounds like. And I'm just like, I'm really glad he's alive. Because I went by helicopter to the hospital once. I was not awake for it. That happens because you're going to die if they don't hurry up and get you somewhere. It was because I didn't have enough blood and my organs were shutting down. So when I'm hearing about him having all that blood loss, I'm like, okay, he got crushed. His leg is crushed. Apparently he had chest trauma. He also lost a lot of blood. There was a doctor there who was able to tie a tourniquet on his leg, apparently, according to reports, but he lost a lot of blood. There's no telling what state he's in. Now, today they said there was also, I heard on Extra, I think it was, that his family said that he's aware, like conscious and aware. I don't even know what that means. But if he went through all that and he's up, like alert, you'd probably be better off out. You know what I mean? You'd probably be better off in a coma, in an induced coma or whatever kind of coma, instead of actively going through all that shit that you're going through right now and knowing everything that happened. And you know what I mean? I can't imagine the state he's in. I just hope he gets way better. Okay, so let me stop. I don't want to. I need to take breaks because I don't have a lot of room on here. Okay, so I don't know what to do with myself. I always think, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to spend any money because I don't really have money. If I spend $1, say I buy a coffee or something, I am being irresponsible because I don't have the money to do that. But I also think that trying to figure things out and isn't working for me. And I really don't know what to do. I don't know my own situation. I think that my life is such a mess, and it's coming at a time where the world seems to be such a mess. Because my life was a mess before. My life was a mess 3 years ago before the pandemic. So many people's lives caught up to me in terms of being a mess. But then sometimes it feels like, oh no, it's just you. I've talked about that before too. But I keep doing things I shouldn't be doing. I ended up being nervous wrecking everything. I ended up going to Dunkin' this morning. And that's why I made the video saying I was worried about. You can hardly hear me. I was still worried about it. And so I sat down. I got my stuff. I sat down. And I'm checking Twitter. And it says Martina Navratilova has 2 kinds of cancer. She has throat cancer and breast cancer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, because usually somebody has a cancer and it spreads. Right? Or they have a cancer, they go through all this chemotherapy and the treatment, stuff like that. And then they get rid of the one cancer, but the radiation or whatever they went through activates some other kind of cancer. Maybe a year or 2 down the line. No, she just got diagnosed with 2 separate kinds of cancer. I'm like, excuse me? Again, there are certain things that people that were put inside of people that I believe are having situations because of this thing, and we don't know all the reasons, all the things that the thing can do to a person, but it seems as though all of a sudden this thing that's been around for, well, I don't know, a year and a half, that people have been taking in, it seems like it had an expiration date or time to go off, like a bomb, a detonation time or something, where all of a sudden horrible things are happening. So I'm just like, what? You know, I watched tennis back in the 80s. That's when I started watching tennis, and I used to like Martina. I thought she was cool. You know what I mean? I liked the way she carried herself. I thought it was badass. I still think she's one of the GOATs. I don't even know. In terms of overall championships, overall wins, I don't know. Because at one point, she had a huge number. I don't know if Serena or any of the guys passed her. But she had a huge number of titles. And she could have been the GOAT. You know what I mean? So, and I liked her, but again, in the last, 7-8 years, the politics and people's attitudes about people who disagree with them politically meant that a lot of people I used to like, I had to either stop following them on Twitter or not think about them at all because I knew they hated me suddenly. And this also isn't evil. Okay, they don't know me, but they hate me, and they talk about how people like myself should be this and that, and the other, should be either we're Nazis or we're phobes or we're people who shouldn't have jobs and people who should go to jail because of whatever political thingies or other thingies they think that we should do, because that's what they want to do. And it just became very sad. Like I said, there's a lot of people I had to stop following. So that happens. And then a little while later, I see that this guy, it's this former football player, Uchi. I don't know how to say his name, Uche or Uchi Waneri, or I really don't know how to pronounce it right. But I'm looking at the name and I'm like, isn't that guy? I'm like, no, that's not him. That, you gotta be kidding me. Okay. Geeks and Gamers. I subscribed to Geeks and Gamers a long time ago. I was a film geek to some extent. I was a film buff and a Star Wars fan going back to being a little kid. As I said before, over the years I used to, be one of the people in the talkback section of Ain't It Cool News. I was around a lot of nerds a lot of the time. So when I go on the internet to talk to people about movies, a lot of times I end up around genre fans. And that's how it's always been. And, I'm not a gamer. So I would, watch these people's videos about the movies. But then it started to become like a war on Disney. I agreed with them on some things, but then, even I don't want to see that, much. I don't want to see that much of the same thing all the time. Because if you're just talking about the film company or who should be fired or stuff like that, it wears on me, because it's like, okay, yeah, I agree, but, I'm not trying to get a thing to happen. I just will talk about it or whatever. So, but I did follow them, and there was a point in time where, along with everything else, political stuff, this and that, these people would try to attack them and say they were racist and all this other stuff. And then they had this one guy, this Uche, who was a football player, who was one of their friends. And he's like, no, they're not like that, stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff that went on, everything, you know what I mean? Then, one day they're all excited. They're going to have a live stream with Zack Snyder. There was a bunch of stuff that happened. I made videos because I was outraged, because Zack Snyder kind of almost called people, or insinuated that people were racist to their face, when he was supposed to come on their stream and be this amazing thing. My memory is long, and I remember what happened that day, and I wasn't happy about it. And I judged a lot of people then, not because I like to be judgmental, but when shit like that happens and you see how people react, that's when you see who people are. You see who's loyal, you see who's smart, you see who's dumb, you see who's disloyal, you see who's in it for themselves, you see who's just, about clout or whatever. You see a lot of things. So I'll say, okay, that's who these people are. And over time, I follow, unfollow. So after I saw that this guy died, I was like, oh, I blocked him from Twitter. Coming to find out, he was one of these very vocal people, again, with politics and stuff like that. He thought that people like myself who did not get vaccinated should be dealt with appropriately. So it's hard for me to if somebody thinks you're a piece of shit for what you choose to do with your own health, somebody sees you as a villain, somebody has no problem saying it, what are you supposed to do? I'll give you an example. Michael Shannon, the actor, he said something about people who voted for Trump, something like they ought to be shot or something. And I was like, hey, I kind of liked you as an actor, but you want me to be shot. How am I supposed to watch your movies now? Okay, so if Sean Penn says that I should not be able to have a job and I should, all this kind of stuff, I've known about Sean Penn long enough to know he's kind of a wackadoodle. I know where he's coming from. I always found his weirdness slightly entertaining. But when you say that about anybody, I don't care what your political stance is. When you're just like, okay, I disagree with them, they should not be allowed to work. I disagree with them, they should go to jail. Anybody who says anything like that, you're saying a different opinion than yours is a crime. Okay? And I don't even care if you were talking about me. I could never get on board with that. And I can never accept somebody saying, okay, you don't think like me, go to jail. You don't think like me, don't ever work again, so you cannot have money, to not have shelter, and not have food. Go die in the corner because we disagree. We have a different opinion about something. This is what happens. So this, I find out the guy was like this and everything like that. But now all of a sudden, I guess over the weekend, he died, and they're not 100% sure, but it seems like acute heart failure. I don't know what acute heart failure is. I know at one point, I think I had maybe had acute heart failure the same time I was talking about, because of all the blood loss. My heart failed, right? But there are certain things that people took inside themselves that have these, that may or may not be causing things, and it seems as though, like I said, it's all happening at once. It seems like it's all been happening around like since Thanksgiving. You're just hearing more and more of these stories from famous people or relatives of famous people, people who are very much pro the thing that they took in, or thought that other people should have the thing, people who either got the thing themselves or had family members who got the thing are falling ill. And then, okay, so it's just like, I want to say things are coming full circle, but even if these people disagree with me, even if these people think I should be dead, even if they think I should be in jail, if they see me as a villain because I decided not to get a vaccine, I don't want them to be harmed, I don't want them to get sick. I don't know how else people learn a lesson, but you don't learn a lesson if you're dead. And nobody wants that to happen to anybody. So, I said before, I have no money, so I have a TV with an antenna. So I get channel 10 and a couple of their affiliate channels, and on occasion I get channel 6. So 10 is NBC, channel 6 is ABC. So that's why I was able to it was breaking up. I was able to watch the Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. But it's a crapshoot whether I'll get that channel. So I don't have cable. So I can't watch anything like Monday Night Football. I'm over here checking Twitter for all these other crazy stories that are going on today when I should be doing my own life. And I don't do my own life because my brain is always trying to figure out these cosmic mysteries about what's the answer to why all this shit is crazy. That's what my brain does. So I'm on Twitter thinking of these other stories, just trying to, is there any more news about Jeremy Renner? Everybody starts, Skip Bayless, and is talking about, I've never seen anything like this before. Then they're saying, oh, there's an ambulance on the field. I'm like, what are they talking about? Some guy on one of the teams on the Buffalo Bills tackled a guy, got up, and then dropped. Like that. So that the team's around him praying. Ambulance comes on the field. They're giving the guy CPR on the field. Again, there is a thing that people took inside themselves. This thing is evil. The time that we are at on earth is evil. Something is really, really freaking wrong. I told you about the moon. I know that makes me sound crazy. And I said it, but yesterday it was almost going to be dark. And the moon was bright over there right above my house. And I'm saying again, I've never seen this happen. I must be crazy. But as a person, as I said, I've mostly seen the moon at night. Near the horizon. If I've ever seen it directly above my house, It was because I went outside 2 o'clock in the morning, or I came home from something at, very late. When I would see things 2 o'clock in the morning, because I was usually looking for asteroids or something. So those are the times I saw the moon high in the sky. In the whole history of me living here, I've never, at that point, and it must have been, I guess, 4 something, because the sky wasn't black yet. The sky was starting to get a darker blue. And it was bright as hell right there. I'm like, I've never seen that. Not this early. Like I said, when I was a kid, sometimes walking to school 7 o'clock in the morning, I would see the moon in the morning light low in the sky. The moon has been in all kinds of places I've never seen it before. I've been saying something is wrong. The last 24 hours have shown me things are really, really, really freaking wrong. These 4 stories on top of each other say to me that Satan's been loose. He's been loosed. It was about time for him to go back in his hole. That hasn't happened. I thought, honestly, my own little private conspiracy theory, I thought Satan had been let loose when terrorism came to the forefront, and it started with the bombing at, was his name Timothy McVeigh? I'm forgetting the guy's name. It was like 1996, and at the same time I was still working in New York. I was on the internet looking up a little bit. They started talking about this weird leader who was some Muslim leader guy who was bombing statues because he didn't want any like Buddhist statues or anything around him, because he didn't want any kind of, and people and art historians were trying to go and rescue the Buddhist statues from this guy who was blowing them up because it offended him, because he was a Muslim. That guy turned out to be Osama bin Laden. So I thought that Satan had been let loose right then and there, because even in my own life and just the world around me, being around in New York, suddenly weird shit started happening. One day I was walking down the street and this guy just punched me in the arm. Like, he started running and he just punched me in the arm. And I was like, what? I went to the Puerto Rican Day Parade and I got really scared because it had like this helter-skelter energy on it. And I was near the southeast corner of the park, across the street from the Plaza Hotel, and diagonal from FAO Schwartz. And I was like, I wanted to watch parade, but I'm like, I didn't feel right. And I went home. I find out the next day people were getting raped right where I was, or sexually assaulted at least, right there in broad daylight while the parade was going on, right where I got that really bad vibe, creepy feeling, and things started to go wrong for me in New York, and it didn't feel safe anymore. And the whole world went for me, the world was starting to go topsy-turvy. So according to Bible scholars, Satan was supposed to kind of be let loose for about 25 years. I had felt like it started in 1996. 25 years, it would have ended in 2021. Things are so tits up right now. I'm like, okay, this is beyond. Things are beyond. I'm going to stop real quick and try to wrap up my thoughts. This has been a new year. People always want New Year's to be better than the last year. I don't play around with that shit. I'm old enough. I've been around too many years to know that it does. I do believe, and I've noticed this for the past, 15, 20 years. I really acknowledge the fact that it really seems sometimes like somebody flipped a switch, and the energy from one year to the next year actually does change. Like when that ball comes down, when it hits, it resets to a different, like the new year has a totally different flavor than the old year. Things are always getting bad, and people are always trying to say good riddance to the old year, but that means it always sucks. That means every year sucks. But the evil now, and I'm calling it evil, and I mean evil. Before this story about the guy, just after I heard about that Uche guy, I was like, nope. I don't have a lot of money, so I try to save things I might need. try to not use things until I read it. I'm like, no, you gotta burn sage today. I have a couple sage bundles. I'm like, no, you gotta burn it today. Sorry. So I was over here burning sage earlier just because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Because there's no practical things that I see for me to do that's really going to make my life better. I could do things other people will do, but other people have different reasons why they feel they could do that. And I know people think I should have done this, I should have done that. I understand. And I know my life is at a point where anything could happen to me at any time. I think I understand the rules and things, how things work. They can change the rules. So I just hope every day that bad things don't happen, but I don't feel like I have any control over it. I feel like if I do something, it'll probably be the wrong thing. I feel so uncertain. Call it fear if you want. Go right ahead and say that, oh, you shouldn't be afraid. This world is not, it was never a safe place, but this world right now in 2023 is already way more psycho than 2022 was. I believe there are evil people that do a lot of the things that lead to some things. Like the evil people who would control a narrative to get everybody to be afraid of a certain thing, so they take the other thing that's supposed to help them, and then the thing that they took causes some of the problems we talked about today. But like I said, a vaccine never got a snowplow to run over somebody. When you see a movie like Christine or something, a car kills people because the car is evil. Before, that sort of thing seemed like very fantastical and just completely made up. But freak accidents happen. And for me, I've been the kind of person for a very long time who doesn't really believe that freak accidents are always freak accidents. So I'm calling it evil. I've been saying evil is on the march. I think the more people who do the wrong thing in terms of being nasty to their fellow man, the more, just Ghostbusters 2, I've said it before, Ghostbusters 2 is kind of a silly movie, but honestly, for what I kind of believe, the idea that there is an ooze, the ooze doesn't have to exist. It's just a collective unconscious or whatever. The atmosphere, the group think, whatever. The life force the force that binds us all together. The dark side is running the show right now, I think. And you're starting to see, in my opinion, you're starting to see more of the divide. It's separating out, you know. I don't want to say good and bad people. I want to say it's like sifting something. I don't want to say separating wheat from the chaff, but it's separating people. Everything is in play right now. Karma is in play. Did you make the right decisions in life? Were you responsible? Did you put aside money? Did you do things right in that way? But were you a good person? So if you got all your shit together, you got all kinds of money and stuff like that, but you weren't a good person, you're not going to be protected now. Maybe if you were a good person, but you weren't smart enough, or you didn't do the right things in terms of having security and maybe, you know, a panic room. You didn't set yourself up to deal with power outages and all that stuff. So even though you may be a good person, because you didn't handle that, maybe you're not going to make it. I don't know who's going to make it. I don't even know that I want to make it. I'm just afraid that I'm going to survive and suffer. I don't want to do that. But my feelings, based on what I'm taking in, what I'm thinking and processing with my mind, but also the feelings I get and what I'm perceiving in the world, is that strange things are afoot at the Circle K. Okay? Things are... I can't help but say stupid things like that sometimes. That's from Bill and Ted. I think it was strange things or weird things are afoot. Something is wrong. You know, I said it's happening again. I said that on purpose in another video. That's from Twin Peaks again. The giant comes and says, he appears and he says it's happening again when evil shit is happening. This seems like a decidedly... It's not just an evil time. There are bursts of evil and bursts of good. But the evil bursts are so bad and unfair and insulting. Like, I could look at this guy and say, okay, he judged people who didn't get vaccinated, and now he's passed away, and maybe it's heart related. I could look at that as karma, but I still think it's unfair, because the people who don't believe what I believe, the only reason they believe and hate people like me or think that things that Sean Penn thinks is because they've been fooled and they've been lied to, and they think I've been fooled. They think I'm following everything Trump said, and they forget that Trump got vaccinated. So they hate me for not getting a vaccine, and they think I'm a baby Nazi Trump supporter, and that's why I didn't get the vaccine. And none of that. If they thought about it, they'd realize, well, if I just did everything Trump told me, I would have gotten the vaccine. So there's a lot going on, and we're all confused to varying degrees. I think the amount of maybe the people with pristine souls will make it. That's not me. Or maybe they won't, because this earth is garbage. I just don't know. But there's a sifting through us, and good people and bad people are falling off the face of the earth, and nobody deserves that kind of karma punishment for just having a bad political attitude. But the strangeness and the weirdness and getting 2 different kinds of cancer, all the shit that's happened in the last, or that I've heard about in the last 24 hours, makes me want to put on a seatbelt. It makes me want to hang on for dear life. But I also kind of don't want to see what's going to happen next, especially to me. I'm scared. Because I'm not grounded. I have no security. If somebody does something to me, I don't have anything but a fool's hope that somehow I'll make it. But I don't think I'm going to make it unscathed. I'm pretty scared already. I'm scared. And I'm sad for everything that's happening to people, whether they hate me or not, whether they think I'm a villain or not. You know, whether they want me. I mean, it's almost 2 years I've been waiting to go to the gulag. Where's my gulag? It's worse in a way. This is not knowing what's going to happen next. Am I going to survive? Or what's going to happen? And then all these things that happen to other people. I just feel like I have no business even worrying because I'm still alive. And I should shut up. But I don't know what to make of it. But then I make these videos. And I don't know why. I feel compelled. I know nobody's listening to me. But I feel like I see a thing, and I think other people do too. But I don't know what the hell any of us are supposed to do about it. I'm scared. Bad. And I hope Martina ends up being okay. I'm scared about Jeremy Renner. It sounds worse than they're saying it is. That's what I feel like. Like it's worse than they're saying. I don't know. He's got the little girl. He seems to really like her. I know there was like custody shit and everything. It's so not fair. I don't know him, but it really reeks of not being fair. I don't even know what to say anymore. I feel really bad, and I hope he's alright. I just nothing makes sense right now. But I really strongly feel like these are magical, supernatural things happening. These aren't just, some of it's a long game with the thing that people took inside themselves. A long con to get people to poison themselves. And it's having these outcomes. But then there's something like that, just a freak accident. I want everybody to be okay. I want something to come and fix all of this and stop all the insanity and stop all the sadness. But it seems like it's the slow shift or the slow sifting us out into factions, and who knows who's going to fall through. I'm afraid for all of us, honestly.